Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian at Boeing Field outside Seattle, Washington. Full disclosure, Boeing is one of our sponsors, and we have with us legendary naval aviator who is now Fred Smith, who's now working for Boeing on multi-mission aircraft marketing or commercial aircraft derivative marketing. Excuse me, Fred. What are, we just, obviously we're now in the Joint Stars, next generation Joint Stars trainer,
Sure.
And got to take a look at what your proposal is. Obviously, it's a very, very tough three-way race. Lockheed is in it. Northrop Grumman's in it. You guys are in it. Air Force is trying to pick between a Northrop and a Raytheon radar that would go on in the canoe on all of these different aircraft. But more broadly, what's your guys' strategy on commercial aircraft derivatives? What are the programs you're targeting? Obviously, Joint Stars is the near-term one. But what are some of the other programs you guys are targeting?
Okay, well, when you look at Boeing, we've got a very rich history. As you know, this is our centennial, so we've been building aircraft for 100 years. We've been building commercial derivative military aircraft for over 50 years. So KC-10, KC-135, EC-135s, AWACS, AEWNC, P-8, tanker, C-40s, presidential aircraft, you name it. So we have a very rich history, commercial derivative aircraft, not just in the aircraft themselves, in the mission systems as well. We have world-class mission systems, open mission system architecture. We exhibit that through airborne early warning and control aircraft, AWACS, P-8, you name it.
Yeah. Well, and if you guys go back, right, you guys were also building some of the, C-47 related airplane. I mean, if you look at the Douglas heritage of the airplane, the Boeing of the company, and the Boeing heritage. Talk to us a little bit about what you guys think differentiates you guys in the Joint Stars race. Obviously, Northrop Grumman is the incumbent in that.
Right.
They were the guys who developed that system, or rather the Grumman side of the company developed it. What makes you think you guys have the edge?
Well, I think what the government's looking for is capable, affordable, and low risk for J-Stars. And when you take a look at what we've done for P-8, AEWNC, those type airplanes, we're taking a lot of that technology and porting it over directly. Definitely low risk, lower cost for the government. When you look at the size of the aircraft, that's really the biggest differentiator in this competition as you see it. And I think most of your viewers are familiar with a term called SWaP-C, space, weight, power, and cooling. When you look at the size of the aircraft involved in this, it's a clear differentiator for us. So the U.S. government, NAVAIR, did a study in 2012 of 44 successful programs. The one denominator that they found was that you have to have at least 10% design margin for a successful program. Now, what we've found over the last 30 or 40 years is you need another 25 to 40% growth margin. You've got to be able to pace that threat. You've got to be able to grow with technology and bring, if you need more people on the airplane, if you need more technology on the airplane. The Navy was brilliant when they designed P-8. The requirement was 30% SWaP-C for that very same reason. So you take a look at congressional documents, it's full of failures like E-10. If you look at aerial common sensor was one that never got off the ground because it was overweight. So I think SWaP-C is critical. Another part of that really is the numbers. There's really strength in numbers. So when you think about the small luxury business jets, there's hundreds of those out in the world, right? There's over 7,000 737s out in the world. There's over 4,000 more on order. That's strength in numbers. What does that mean? That means that when you need a part, when you need maintenance, when you need support, it's out there 24/7, 365. So, and then you look at what's going on with the sustainability of the aircraft and the actual flight hour cost for these aircraft. Some people will intuitively look at a smaller jet and say it's cheaper to operate. The government numbers will show you that the C-37, which is a small luxury business jet, is more expensive per flight hour to maintain and operate, cost per flight hour, than the C-40, which is a 737.
Why is that? I mean, there were guys who were flying the case
Right.
that both Lockheed and Northrop are going to make is because we're teamed with Gulfstream and with Bombardier.
Right.
We're the guys who are burning less gas than this much bigger airplane is.
Right. It's a simple matter of it's a small boutique fleet. It's hundreds of airplanes around the world as compared to thousands. So when you take a look at it, compare it like if you had a small luxury sports car or you had a pickup truck that you can get maintained and worked on anywhere. The parts issues, we're going to be around for the next 30 to 40 years with 737s. You won't have the DMS issues. It's just simply a matter of numbers, economies of scale, competitiveness in the sustainment market out there. And so, when you look at that and then you add on the fact that depot times for small aircraft are actually more. Now, they'll call it something else, but when you actually look at it in the hands of the operator, we're in the hands of the operator about 30% more time than a small luxury business jet. So what does that mean? That means You buy 737s, you can do the work of 10 small luxury business jets. That's what it really means.
Do you guys think that power generation is going to be another issue? You guys are producing 360 kVA right now because basically you're using the same engine and generator sets from the P8. Do you think that's going to be a discriminator for you?
I think it's a huge discriminator. Even if you look at what the minimum requirement is, that is the minimum. So when you think 20, 30 years from now, what are you going to want to put on that airplane? Obviously, you can't break the laws of physics. Radars require aperture, they require power. If you want to put other systems on that airplane, you're going to require power. You need that room for growth.
How many folks, the Air Force requirement, obviously it's 16 crew members who are on Joint Stars right now. The Air Force is going down to 10. What's the crew size of this going to be? Because this configuration you've got is for 10 operator stations effectively in this trainer, right? If you in this trailer, if you mirror that. What's the personnel load you're going to be able to carry on this? What is a 737-700 class airplane, right? So it's about 110 feet long or so?
Roughly, right. And it depends on what other mission system you want to put on the aircraft. But we can put significantly more crew members on this aircraft than you can, the current requirement, a minimum of 10.
So you were talk to us about the model of, say, you want to get 3 aircraft over to Korea or someplace else to set up an orbit in a self-deployed manner. Can you do that with, walk us through some of the option sets on that?
Yeah, well, if you look at our airplane, one of the things we're porting over besides the power is a proven aerial refueling system. So we can stay airborne for, up to 20 hours plus. It's just a factor of the fuel oil. It's a proven system, minimum requirement for certification on the new aircraft. So, we're able to go out there and orbit and stay on station longer, several hours longer in most cases for the operational scenarios.
And you can also put you have extra jump seats, extra room,
Absolutely.
risk kits and everything that you can take with you.
Right, another de-risking item. So if the COCOM wants the capability to self-deploy that aircraft, you don't have to take over a C-130 or a C-17. You can take your own maintenance personnel, you can take your own security personnel. You self-deploy that aircraft into the AOR and you begin operations immediately.
You guys do have an admirable record, whether for basically all the big special jet, special mission aircraft are of Boeing derivatives, mostly on 707 airframes. But you can also look at it and say that some of the 737-based aircraft that you guys on one 737 was the wedge-tail aircraft, did have its challenges, both for Turkey as well as for Australia. It took you guys a while to work through those issues. And if you look at the 767-based tanker, both Italy and Japan did experience problems with those airplanes. What are the lessons from those programs, and why is the situation now different with this airplane than it is with those ones with you guys?
Yeah, I'd say the lessons learned for several of those programs were somewhat different. For the tankers, it was more of a technical type lesson learned, and for the AEW&C, it was really more of a requirements lesson learned. We set the bar very high, requirements that probably couldn't be met with the technology that was available at the time. So what we've done is Boeing has a development organization now across BDS and BCA. So we've taken the BCA model and brought that to BDS, and what we're doing is bringing those lessons learned and sharing those lessons learned. We realized after Tanker that we needed to do that we weren't communicating as well as we should or could, and I think we're well on a path to getting well in that area. You take a look at P8. P8's the model acquisition program.
As you guys look at the global market, break it up for me, say over the next 10 years, 20 years, how many airplanes are we talking about domestically? How many airplanes are we talking about internationally? That's the addressable market for you guys. Yeah,
well, I think it's very significant. Obviously, J-Stars is the first. There'll be the boutique fleet recaps for the U.S. Air Force, and there'll be a ABMS, basically next generation AWACS recap, which will be the larger of the recaps. We see actually several hundred aircraft out there, probably 100 or more domestically and probably 100 more internationally. We saw the same thing for P8. People want to take a wait-and-see attitude, right? So when P8 became operational, then the FMS customers began to come on. We're starting to see that with Tanker. We lost some early competitions when we weren't ready. Then we entered the competition in Japan. We won that, and we've got a very bright outlook for the future of international Tanker as well.
What kind of numbers are you putting against the Tanker requirement, do you think, that you guys will have?
For international?
Yeah.
Well, for domestically, we firmly believe that, we obviously get the 179. We believe KCY is some morph of KC-46 for another 179. And there's probably roughly 50 to 60 international tankers out there. We came on late. Obviously, we weren't able to capture the early part of that market.
talk to me about P8. Obviously, Australia aboard on the program, India aboard on the program. You got the UK this summer. You have Norway that announced an intention for it. Obviously, up to Parliament for the aircraft that they're looking for, the 5 aircraft they were looking for. Right. Walk us through how many more on the P8 do you see? Because your former airplane, the P3, Navy was giving away perfectly good ones about 20 years ago, and a lot of guys were still using them. So, and how long will that market take to? What's the numbers, and how long will it take to evolve?
Right. Well, the P8 market is a very specific market. It's the world's best anti-submarine warfare, anti-surface warfare, and intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft. It's the world's best maritime patrol aircraft. Not everybody needs that, right? So you look at the countries that operate P3s today. Not all of those countries need P8. We know who the countries are. We've got several other countries besides the ones you mentioned that we're talking to. Obviously, we don't disclose that. We'll let them disclose that when the time is right. Things are, negotiations are always tenuous. There will be some competitions, we believe, in the open market that we'll engage in. So we think there's another market for 50 or so aircraft out there.
Japan, one of those countries?
We'll wait and see.
What do you guys see as your number one competitors in the marketplace? Obviously, Airbus has also been talking about the ability to be able to create a program like this. They're also a great commercial aircraft maker, and a lot of companies in Europe do have that integration capability, especially in maritime patrol aircraft and sensors. How do you see the competitive dynamic globally?
Well, I think it's a very competitive market. When you look across the airborne ISR market, from the big planes down to the small planes, and you add in the unmanned in there, it's an extremely competitive market. You look at some of our competitors out there, are they willing to give away more technology than we will release through the U.S. government process? They're willing to maybe do some other things that we wouldn't do. So, we keep our shields up. We're always on the alert for what the competition's doing out there. And, we believe that we bring the best value and the best product to the marketplace.
From a sustainment standpoint, how important first, how many direct commercial sales do you think you'll do? Do you think all these orders are going to be through FMS? And also on the sustainment side of things, obviously you guys did a big corporate reorganization, focusing a little bit more on sustainment in that part of the business. Are you guys going to be offering this as sort of full package turnkey service at some point if somebody's interested in that kind of an option?
Right. Well, actually, we always offer that option. Performance-based logistics, partnership for affordable readiness, whatever you want to call it. Anything, from organic maintenance all the way up to we provide the full service for the customer. So, I think what we find is that it's a hybrid. A lot of people want to do some organic and some performance-based logistics. I mean, it's much different than it was with the P3. You take a look at the CFM56 engine, it's on the wing for 20,000 hours plus. Do you really want to train mechanics to fix a CFM56 engine? Why would you do that, right? So that might be something you push to performance-based. Some of the daily maintenance type of stuff you might want to do organically. So I think every customer is a little bit different in that regard.
Obviously, the President-elect, Donald Trump, did make some headlines today, tweeted about the Air Force One replacement. Obviously, you guys were awarded the contract for modified Dash 8s, 3 of them that are going to constitute the Air Force One fleet, use the number $6 billion. Obviously, the President flies in a modified 747 right now. That's a highly modified airplane. How do you guys respond to that criticism?
Well, I think, as we all know, that airplane's almost 30 years old now, so the Air Force has launched the recap of the presidential aircraft. Right now, we're under contract for about $170 million for a study that's looking at the capabilities that will be required for that aircraft. Obviously, it's a significantly more capable aircraft than a commercial 737, as communications and security issues. 747, excuse me, yes, 747. It has communications and security issues that you don't have on a standard commercial aircraft. So we're working with the Air Force right now on those, and we're looking forward to the next phase. And we, along with the Air Force, I'm sure, are committed to giving the President the absolute best airplane at the absolute best value for the American taxpayer.
As somebody who knows your way around these aircraft, do you think that people fully appreciate the sophistication and the kind of technology that goes into Air Force One to make the presidential transport, the air battle management system, nuclear command and control, the ability to stay airborne for amounts of time that are completely unprecedented for any commercial aircraft, as well as defensive suites and all that other kind of technology that go into it?
Well, I'll speak generically, not just about Air Force One, but about the overall, the aviation market, right? So I was U.S. Navy for 26 years. I don't think you really fully understand until you come on the industry side of it, how complex it is actually to build an aircraft and to modify it and to do those type of things and to recertify it, and whether it's a hardening or a communication suite or an antenna location. I mean, these are extremely complex issues when you're dealing with aircraft. So I think it's really hard for people to understand how difficult and complex that really is, because they're just not exposed to it every day.
Fred, thanks very, very much. And so have you had a chance to fly the P-8 and how it flies compared to a P-3? Do you miss those P-3 days?
I do. I miss the P-3 days for the camaraderie, but the P-8 is a amazing aircraft. When you fly that down low on the water, there's no crew fatigue. It's just an amazing aircraft. The things that these young people are doing with this aircraft today are just mind-boggling. It's incredible.
Do you think that the presence of a head on the airplane is going to spoil future anti-submarine warfare crews?
Most likely. Absolutely.
And from Fred, it's going to make you guys soft. So,
that's right.
Fred, thanks very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time.